Goldilocks steps into the clearing and, like many of you this morning, realises she's left home without her breakfast. And she sees this little cottage on the far side of the clearing and figures maybe I'll get something to eat there. So she goes across and the smoke coming from the chimney, but there doesn't seem to be anybody around. So she calls out, "Anybody home?" But there's no answer. So she taps on the door, "Anybody home?" Still no answer. So then, as she's tapped on the door is ajar, so it opens. And just inside the door, just on the table, just inside the door, she finds 3 brochures. And she picks up the first brochure and it's for Daddy Bear's porridge. And Daddy's out front and he's got a suit and he's got a tie and he looks really marvellous. He's standing in front of the big industrial machine behind him that's creating all of this porridge. But frankly, Goldilocks doesn't think it looks very appealing. So she picks up the second one and it's Mammy Bear's porridge brochure, and this looks much more promising. Mammy Bear's brochure has a picture of Mammy and she's stirring the big pot of porridge. And my goodness, Goldilocks thinks she can almost taste the porridge. So she wonders, where will I find this wonderful porridge? There's no information on the brochure, so she puts that down. And finally she picks up the final brochure, which is Baby Bear's brochure. And Baby Bear's brochure looks fantastic. There's a picture of baby smiling, enjoying the porridge. You can almost taste it. You can see the currants in the porridge. It looks really gorgeous. And for Goldilocks, that looks just right. So she looks inside, and there's an instruction on the brochure, and it says, "Have a look on the kitchen table." So Goldilocks looks, and sure enough, there's 3 bowls on the kitchen table. So she picks up the first bowl, the big bowl, and she tastes it's too hot. She tries the second bowl, Mammy's bowl, and that's too cold. And she tries the last bowl, and it's just right. So you may wonder what you've pulled yourself out of bed early this morning to come up to City West and listen to fairy stories. What have they got to do with business? Because in our experience on Island Bridge, what we find is that although we believe that customers are looking for the hottest or the coldest or the first or the fastest or the fittest or the most technologically advanced, what in fact they're looking for is something that's just right. So I'm going to speak for the next 10 minutes or so on the topic of a face in the crowd. How can you determine what's just right for your customers, and how can you find those customers? So first, I just want to briefly have a introduction to how a brand works, because we're all of us in the business of brands one way or another. And as customers, we're buying brands, we're choosing brands. But very often we don't really know quite how brands work. We have an idea that they're important, that if I have a big brand or a strong brand, I'm going to be more successful in some way. But we often don't have any sense of how a brand works. And when I ask, I'm not going to ask in this environment because it's too noisy for you to answer, I think. People often say to me that a brand for them is an image or a promise or a reputation or a badge, a logo. Those are the things that people typically think about when they think of a brand. But I'd like to go beyond that, because I think a brand is much more important than all of those things. In our experience in business, success comes down to an ability to influence choice. Would you agree? We're not going to be successful in business if we don't influence people to choose us, right? So no matter how good your product or service is, no matter how tasty your food is, no matter how well made it is, no matter how well researched it is, if you cannot persuade people to buy it, you won't be successful. And the world is full of great products which fail because the owners failed to persuade people to buy. So in our experience, when we say success in business comes down to influencing choice, what we're suggesting is that all of us are in the business of influencing choice. Sometimes we set up a business believing that we're in the influence of making the product, of cooking the food, of building the factory. That's not the business we're in. We're in the business of influencing choice. And the purpose of a brand has something to do with choice. The purpose of a brand is to make it the natural choice of customers. So why do I pick this term natural choice? What would it be to be the natural choice of customers in your market? Quick show of hands, who of you are business owners in the audience this morning? Just think briefly, what would it be, what would it mean to your business if your brand made you the natural choice of customers? Because you can imagine, for example, if you were a Pepsi drinker or a Coke drinker, you don't go into the shop and think to yourself, what am I going to have this morning, do you? For you, it's a natural choice. You wouldn't notice if the other brand wasn't on the shelf. You wouldn't notice, would you? Because as far as you're concerned, there is only one cola. And if you look at the great brands, that's typically what they do, is that they have established themselves in the minds of their customers as a natural choice. So people don't even think about it anymore. And many of those choices have been made previously. So when the opportunity comes up to sell something to somebody, they've already decided what it is they want to buy. Quick show of hands, who of you in the room does the weekly shopping for the family or for the household? Quick show of hands. Not too many of the others. The others have a shopping service. How long does the weekly shop typically take? Half an hour? Yeah? Half an hour typically? Yeah, if you're a bit of a browser, it can take 40 minutes, 45 minutes, maybe longer. But typically, you'll get through your shopping in half an hour. Now imagine for a moment if you had to check every item that was on the shelves. How many items do you think there are in a typical supermarket? Individual items, about 30,000. So imagine for a moment if you had to interrogate, check the credentials of, read who made it, read how long they've been in business, read about their health and safety statement, read about their ethical standards. How long do you think it might take you to do the weekly shop? Probably a week. We don't have the time to make decisions on that basis. So that points to another role that the brand plays. The brand is about making us the natural choice of customers. But what if you're the customer? What role does a brand play for the customer, do you think? Yeah, the brand helps the customer to make the right choice. Because when you leave your shop, when you bought your car, you're typically pleased with the choice you made, right? You feel like you've made the right choice. So that suggests something else, is that the purpose of a brand is to help customers to choose what's just right for them. So that sets up a very interesting relationship between you and your customers through the brand. So at Island Bridge, we define the brand as standing for the relationship between the buyer and the seller. The brand influences choice by standing for the relationship between the buyer and the seller. And it's a relationship which helps the seller to become the natural choice of customers, and it helps the buyer to make the right choice. So when we start to think about our business and our brand in terms of relationship, it changes very much the dynamic of how we work with our customers and how we begin to think about marketing. I'd like to introduce you to a tool that we use at Island Bridge, which we call the bullseye customer. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all? And the mirror replied, "Oh, wicked queen, Snow White Food Solutions are the fairest of them all." And the wicked queen flies into a rage because the mirror hasn't given her the answer she wants. And even as children, we realize how ridiculous it is to stand in front of a mirror admiring yourself. Right? Even as children, when the story's being told and we see her standing to her full height and asking, "Mirror, mirror on the wall," we know it's not going to end well. And yet, many of us in business spend our time looking in the mirror and asking ourselves how wonderful we are, how well made is our product, how long have we been in business. And then we say those things on our websites, we say it on our packaging, we boast. And I believe that most of us aren't boastful. I don't believe any of you are boastful by nature. But there's a tendency when you're in front of a mirror to boast. You have to, because all of your weaknesses are there to see. So why don't we turn away from the mirror and look somewhere else? And where do you think I'm going to suggest we look? If we're not looking in the mirror, where should we be looking? The clue is in the title of the presentation, A Face in the Crowd. We have to turn away from the mirror and face our audience, face our crowd, face our market, and look to our market and look to our customers. But the reality is that most of us are not comfortable with the idea of looking into a market. We're much more comfortable dealing with somebody one-to-one, right? But the idea for most of you of standing up here and speaking, even to a relatively small crowd this morning, would horrify you, right? So socially, we're not equipped to look into a crowd and to be comfortable relating to a crowd. Right? For most of us, if we look into a crowd, we struggle to relate, and we start to resort to things like ABC1 demographics. We start to describe our customers in these kind of cold, technical terms that don't give us a basis on which to form a relationship. So we have something much better at Island Bridge that we would recommend to you, and that idea is the idea of your bullseye customer. customer. So instead of looking into the crowd, we want you looking into the eyes of your customer. Isn't it much easier to relate to her than it is to them, right? Isn't it much easier to relate to her than it is to them? So how can we relate to her? I want to introduce you to the idea of the bullseye customer. Now, the bullseye customer, I can safely say, is one of the most powerful tools you can use in your business. And the beauty of it is that after this morning, you can begin to use it in your businesses too. You don't need us to help you use it. I'd love if you did, but you don't. And it's the notion that at the center of your audience is somebody who is at the bullseye, that somebody is at the center. What was the purpose, do you think, of the original target with its bullseye? For the archer, who would have, in ancient times, who would have set up a target. What was the purpose of the bullseye on a target, do you think? I would suggest that the purpose of the bullseye is to help you to aim, right? It's to give you something to aim at. And critically, what happens if you miss the bullseye by a little bit? Say you aim at the bullseye here and you miss by a little bit. What do you still hit? What do you still hit? The target, right? So think of your audience, think of your market as your target, right? And you want to find out who's at the very center of your market. And you know, this isn't an original idea. We borrow this from some of the great speakers and the great marketers, from some of the great writers. The great writers tell us that when they sit down to write, they picture who this book is for. They don't just write for everybody. You can't write for everybody. You have to be writing for somebody. And as soon as you start writing for somebody, as soon as you start speaking to somebody rather than everybody, it becomes much more powerful. So I want to introduce you to this idea for your business. Your business has a bullseye customer. Now, who should be your bullseye customer? So who is this woman? Who is she for you? How would you determine who your bullseye customer is? And it's very, very simple. Your bullseye customer is your best customer. It's the customer who needs, wants, values, and is willing and able to pay for what it is you have to offer. If they're missing any one of these 5 characteristics, they're not best customers. And lots of us will look at this and say, this is common sense. And then we look at the business owners who chase customers who cannot afford to buy from them, who chase customers who need something but don't want it. And have you ever tried selling something to somebody that doesn't want it? Your child might need a cereal. It may be full of nourishment, but if they don't want it, will they eat it? We're the same. We never change. We are much more likely to buy something when we need, want, value, and are willing and able to pay for it. And I guarantee you, we've worked in sectors right across the board: retail, hospitality, banking, engineering, manufacturing, etc. And in every one of those businesses, their bullseye customer, their best customer, is the one who most needs, wants, values, and is willing and able. So you can start to profile who is the person. Where are they? Are they at the home at the moment? Are they in an office at the moment? Are they on their way to school at the moment? Where are they when they most need, want, value, and are willing and able to pay for it? And that's the bullseye. That's the center around which you must build your market. So it means no more selling to everybody. How tiring it is to sell to everybody, right? We want to sell to somebody. We're social animals. We're much more comfortable selling to people rather than trying to sell to everybody. It gives you a starting point for the relationship, which is a little bit kind of contrarian, because the sense is that your bullseye customer is an imaginary person, right? You profile them. They don't really exist. But actually, in profiling them, you begin to have a starting point for how you might form a relationship with them. And it is all about the relationship. Funnily enough, it makes and keeps it real. We have clients who check their new brochure, check changes on their website, check changes on their packaging, and ask, would David like it? Would Mary like it? They've named their bullseye customer, which is really powerful. And in asking the question, of course, as soon as you ask it, you answer it for yourself, because you know your best customers. You know what they like. And it's much more powerful than trying to look at a piece of copy on a brochure or a ad or something and say, does this work in isolation? Does it work for this market? ask yourself, does it work for the person that we need it to work most for? And it focuses your attention on the core of the market. I can't stress how important that is. This isn't about hitting the bullseye. It's about aiming at the bullseye. And if you miss the bullseye by just a little, you've just reached your best customer's next door neighbour, the person who's almost perfect. And they don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have a perfect relationship. So the next best customer is a great customer, right? And at the very edge of your target, you got the people who are not good customers for you. I'm not saying they're not good people. They're just not good customers for you. So why would you bother trying to reach them and persuade them and win them over? So you may say, this sounds very interesting, very theoretical, nice idea, but does it work? Will it work in my business? So I want to ask, who wants ice cream? About 6-7 years ago, we got invited by the owner of Bandy Brooks in Dundrum Shopping Centre. Some of you will not have known it then. You won't know it by that name now. And he was making handmade ice cream on the ground floor, just beside around the corner from the Butler's Chocolate Cafe, you know it, in Dundrum Shopping Centre. He was making lovely handmade ice cream in the Italian style, and under the name Bandy Brooks. Bandy Brooks. And Bandy Brooks was an American explorer who travelled from North America to South America and brought back the cocoa bean. So it seemed like a great name for an ice cream shop, right? And the ice cream was delicious. But he reckoned he was only selling about a third of what HB on the top floor, who weren't as accessible as he was only selling about a third of what they were selling, he reckoned. So he wasn't happy with his brand. So he asked us to look at his brand. And we asked the question, who's your bullseye customer? Who's your best customer? And he didn't know. He was able to tell us about his regular customers. So what we did was we sat down outside of Bandy Brooks in the Dundrum Shopping Centre. We watched the people coming and going. And what we noticed, to our surprise, or maybe not to our surprise, was that the customers who were most likely to need, want, value and be willing and able to pay for an ice cream on a regular basis were younger people, right? People with some disposable income. And we noticed there were lots of such young people, and particularly lots of women, shopping in Dundrum Shopping Centre. What were they shopping for, do you think? In Dundrum, clothes, right? Dundrum is primarily a clothing shopping centre. They could have gone to Tesco, but they were mostly shopping in stores. So we looked at the bags they were carrying, and we reckoned that these young women had just bought new clothes. And it's likely, if I know young women, I don't think I do, but if I did, that a young woman is likely to buy clothes that are a little tight for her, right? She wants smooth, close-fitting clothes, right? So we asked ourselves, how likely is she to buy an ice cream, particularly an American ice cream? So we started to picture the ideal customer for our client. And first of all, we named her Rachel. She looked like a Rachel. And we said she looked 25. Maybe she's a little older, maybe she's younger, but she looked about 25. And we figured just from watching her that she was in an office job. She looked like somebody who was kind of professional when she wasn't relaxing. That was just the kind of sense we had. So we put her in an office. And in picturing her in the office, we kind of said, what's her life look like? And she looked quite athletic, she looked fairly fit. So we speculated that the sports that she was most likely to play were tennis and gym. I don't know if this is true, but it looked right to us. And critically we asked, what does Rachel at 25, where has she been before? And we've discovered, first of all, she's clothes mad. She looks like a college graduate, and that's not a big ask in Ireland of today. Most women in their 20s are, or many are, college graduates. And we speculated that when she was younger, what did she do just after college, which most of that generation do just after college? Where did she go? Traveling. For how long? Typically? Maybe 9 months a year. Where did she end up? Where do you think? America? On a round the world trip? Where did Rachel most likely end up? Australia, right? So we introduced a new brand, Aussie Ice, same ice cream, same handmade ice cream, some new flavours to reflect an Australian heritage, and they rebranded over a weekend, and their sales tripled. They didn't just increase, they tripled, and they have continued in the same vein for the last 6 or 7 years, because we sat down and we spent time looking to see who was their best customer, and we asked, is Rachel more likely to buy an Australian style ice cream or an American style ice cream? So I really encourage all of you, business owners particularly, but those of you who are working on agencies or working and selling to anybody who must influence others, look into your market. Begin to ask the question, who's the person who most needs, wants, values, and is willing and able to pay for what it is I have to offer? And begin to profile your bullseye customer. Your chance to win, just to finish, now you're paying attention. You get to win your own one-to-one session with me, in which I will quiz you and ask questions of you and your business. Typically, that session we charge it out to clients at about €500. At the end of that session, we'll have drafted up a profile of your best customer, somebody that you can begin to focus on in your business. And how do you win? You share comments on today's presentation, good or bad. Good, I hope. We'll throw the bad ones in the bin. No, we won't. We'll be completely Catholic about it. Twitter, @IslandBridge, the name of our company, Island Bridge. LinkedIn, again, you'll find our page, LinkedIn brand development. So you can comment on either of those places. We're a business, so these are good business-like places. Facebook doesn't work for us, so please don't comment on Facebook. Although if you say nice things about Facebook, my family will be delighted. And if you'd like to speak with me after today's presentation, we're going to be around for a little while visiting some of the exhibitions, etc. And you can't find me easily, here's my mobile number. I'd love to hear from you. So thank you very much for your attention. Really encourage you to look out into your market, identify who your best customer is, make them the bullseye of all of your efforts, and like Dundrum, like Aussie Ice in Dundrum Shopping Centre, I can't promise you you'll triple your turnover, but I can promise you you'll sell more to the people who are best for you. Thank you very much.